Ishwaran, the storyteller. Mahendra was a junior supervisor in a firm which offered on hire supervisors at various type of construction sites, factories, bridges, dams and so on, due to which he had to keep moving from place to place every now and then, as ordered by his head office. Mahendra would be up early in the morning and leave for work after breakfast. Meanwhile, Ishwaran would tidy up the shed and do all the household work. After that, he would have a pleasuring bath, pouring several buckets of water over his head, muttering a prayer all the while. It would be lunchtime by then. After eating, he would read for a while before dozing off. The book was usually some popular Tamil thriller running for 200 pages. Its imaginative descriptions and narrative flourishes would hold Ishwaran in thrall. His own descriptions were greatly influenced by the Tamil authors that he read. When he was narrating even the smallest of incidents, he would try to work in suspense and a surprise ending into the account. For example, instead of saying that he had come across an uprooted tree on the highway, he would say, with eyebrows suitably arched and hands held out in a dramatic gesture, the roads were deserted and I was all alone. Suddenly, I spotted something that looked like an enormous bushy beast lying sprawled across the road. I was half inclined to turn and go back, but as I came closer, I saw that it was a fallen tree with its dry branches spread out. Mahendra would stretch himself back in his chair and listen to Ishwaran's tales uncritically.
The place I come from is famous for timber. There is a richly wooded forest all around. The logs are hauled onto the lorries by elephants. They are huge, well-fed beasts. When they turn by, even the most experienced manhunt is not able to control them.
After this prologue, Ishwaran would launch into an elaborate anecdote involving an elephant. One day, a tusker escaped from the timber yard and began to roam about, stamping on bushes, tearing up wild creepers, and breaking branches at will. You know, sir, how an elephant behaves when it goes mad? The elephant reached the outskirts of a town, breaking the fences down like matchsticks. It came onto the main road and smashed all the stalls selling fruits, mud pots, and clothes. People ran helter and skelter in panic. The elephant now entered a school ground where children were playing. Breaking through the brick wall, all the boys ran into the classroom and shut the doors tight. The beast grunted and wandered about, pulling out the football goalpost, tearing down the volleyball net, kicking and flattening the drum kept for water, and uprooting the shrubs. Meanwhile, all the teachers climbed up to the terrace of the school building. From there, they helplessly watched the depredations of the elephant. There was not a soul below on the ground. The streets were empty, as if the inhabitants of the entire town had suddenly disappeared. I was studying in the junior class at that time and was watching the whole drama from the rooftop. I don't know what came over me suddenly. I grabbed a cane from the hand of one of the teachers and ran down the stairs and into the open. The elephant grunted and menacing swung a branch of a tree which it held in its trunk. It stamped its feet, kicked up a lot of mud and dust. It looked frightening, but I moved slowly towards it. Stick in hand, people were watching the scene hypnotized from the nearby housetops. The elephant looked at me red-eyed, ready to rush towards me. It lifted its trunk and trumpeted loud. At that moment, I moved forward and, mustering all my force, whacked its third toenail on the quick. The beast looked stunned for a moment, then it shivered from head to foot and collapsed. I will be back after lighting the gas and burning up the dinner. Mahendra, who had been listening with rapt attention, would be left hanging. When he returned, Ishwaran would not pick up the thread of the story right away. Mahendra would have to remind him that the conclusion was pending.
Well, a veterinary doctor was summoned to retrieve the animal. 2 days later, it was led away by its manhood to the jungle. Well, how did you manage to do it, Ishwaran? How did you bring down the beast? It had something to do with the Japanese art, I think so. Karate or Jujutsu it is called. I had read about it somewhere. It temporarily paralyzes the nervous system, you see.
Not a day passed without Ishwaran recounting some stories packed with adventure, horror, and suspense. Whether the story was credible or not, Mahendra enjoyed listening to it because of the inimitable way in which it was told. Ishwaran seemed to more than make up for the absence of a TV in Mahendra's life quarters.
Can I make something special for dinner tonight, sir? After all, today is an auspicious day. According to tradition, we prepare various delicacies to feed the spirits of our ancestors today, sir.
That night, Mahendra enjoyed the most delicious dinner and complimented Ishwaran on his culinary skills. He seemed very pleased but unexpectedly launched into a most grandiose account involving the supernatural.
You know, sir, this entire factory area we are occupying was once a burial ground.
Mahendra was jerked out of the pleasant reverie he had drifted into after the satisfying meal.
I knew on the first day itself when I saw a human skull lying on the path. Even now, I came across a number of skulls and bones. I am not easily frightened by these things, sir. I am a brave fellow, but one horrible ghost of a woman which appears off and on at midnight during the full moon. It is an ugly.
Are you crazy, Ishwaran? There are no such thing as ghosts or spirits. It is all a figment of your imagination. Get your digestive system checked and maybe your head as well. You are talking nonsense. He left the room and retired for the night, expecting Ishwaran to sulk for a couple of days. But the next morning, he was surprised to find the cook as cheerful and talkative as ever. From that day on, Mahendra, for all his brave talk, went to bed with a certain unease. Every night, he peered into the darkness outside through the window next to his bed, trying to make sure that there was no movement of dark shapes in the vicinity. But he could only see a sea of darkness with the twinkling stars. He had always liked to admire the milk-white landscape on the full moon nights. But after hearing Ishwaran's story of the female ghost, one night Mahendra was woken up from his sleep by a low mourn close to his window. At first he put it down to a cat crawling around for mice, but the sound was too guttural for a cat. He resisted the curiosity to look out of the window, but the wailing became louder and less feline. Lowering himself to the level of the windowsill, he looked out at the white sheet of moonlight outside. There, not too far away, was a dark, cloudy form clutching a bundle. Mahendra broke into a cold sweat and fell back on the pillow, panting. As he gradually recovered from the ghastly experience, he began to reason with himself and finally concluded that it must have been some sort of autosuggestion, some trick that his subconscious mind had played on him. By the time Mahendra got up in the morning, he had a bath and came out to have breakfast. The horror of the previous night had faded from his memory.
Good morning, sir. So, remember the other day when I was telling you about the female ghost with the fortress in its arm? You were so angry with me for imagining things. Well, you saw her yourself last night. I came running hearing the sound of mourning that was coming from your room.
A chill went down Mahendra's spine. He did not wait for Ishwaran to complete his sentence. He hurried away to his office and handed in his papers, resolving to leave the haunted place the very next day.